You're witnessing footage of Colombo taken from the rooftop of the Newsfirst Center in Colombo at 8:43 p.m.
It's 6:30 p.m. in Sana'a, Yemen.
It's 11:30 a.m. in Washington, D.C., USA.
It's 9 p.m. here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. We're coming to you live from the Newsfirst Center. A very good evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
A very good evening to you. I'm Shamir Rasuddin. The U.S. State Department warns its citizens and non-emergency staff members to leave Yemen immediately as a result of a threat from Al-Qaeda.
Well, the United Kingdom too has issued a warning to its citizens traveling to Yemen, stating them and warning them to leave now in wake of these security threats.
We have a comprehensive report coming on the Newsfirst International Desk, but before that, we take a look at tonight's top stories.
Headlines on Newsfirst at 9.
Minister Nimal Siripal de Silva informs Parliament that an independent investigation will be held into the unrest in Ratapaswala. The police says steps are being taken to hand over the firearms of soldiers who were at the location during the unrest in Valivaria to the government analyst. Western Provincial Councillor Shriral Laktilaka decided to work as an independent councillor. Valalavita Pradesh Sabha chairman arrested on bribery charges, released on bail. Amazon CEO agrees to purchase a Washington Post.
News First at 9.
And now the news in detail. An independent investigation is to be held into the unrest that broke out in Valivaria.
Those were the comments made by Minister Nimal Siripal de Silva in Parliament today, where the Leader of the House also said that inquiries will be held into alleged attacks on journalists during the unrest in Valivaria recently.
Let's take a listen to the views expressed by Minister Nimal Siripal de Silva in Parliament today.
Valivaria sidu siddiya samatayakata pat kirim sadha.
It is clear that the police were present from the beginning during the unrest in Valivaria and took every effort to resolve the matter. Magisterial inquests have already commenced into the persons who were killed and wounded during the unrest. I wish to responsibly state that security forces too will conduct investigations based on what is revealed by the magisterial inquests. I also wish to note that during this investigation, inquiries will also be made into alleged assaults on journalists. I also wish to inform this estimable chamber that temporary solutions have already been provided for the drinking water crisis, and we have been working on a permanent solution to this problem for some time now. I also wish to note that the government has already taken steps to provide relief to those who were killed and those who were wounded during this unrest.
සිද්ධියෙන් ජීවිතාක්ෂයට පත්තු හා තුවාල වූවන්ට සහන සැලසීමට රජය දැනටමත් ක්‍රියා කරගෙන යන බව දන්වමි.
Convening a media briefing today, the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau said it is taking steps to analyze soil samples from the area at the center of the problem. A team has been deployed for field research. This team will collect soil samples from the area. We have extended the area to be covered for the collection of soil samples to a circumference of 25 kilometers. This includes the land on which the relevant factory is located. After the soil samples are collected, they will be analyzed. It is only after this that we will be able to submit a proper analytical report on this. Meanwhile, the police say that steps are being taken to hand over the firearms of soldiers who were at the location during the unrest in Valivaria to the government analyst. Police media spokesperson SP Buddhika Siriwardana said the intention of this step is to conduct ballistics test to determine if the weapons had been fired. In the meantime, the body of Nilantha Pushpakumara, who succumbed on Sunday to injuries sustained during Thursday's unrest in Valivaria, is currently lying at his residence in Udahen Thanna, Gampala. Nilantha, who was employed at a private institution in Valivaria, had been caught up in the unrest while returning to the hostel where he was boarded. The body of 19-year-old Ravishan Pereira, who also succumbed on Sunday to injuries sustained during Thursday's unrest, is currently lying at his residence in Bandarawatta, Madagamua in Valivaria. A student of St. Peter's College in Udugampala, Ravishan was to sit for the GCE advanced level examinations which commenced yesterday. The students' final rites will be performed at the cemetery of St. Anthony's Church, Valivaria tomorrow. At this instance, I would like to ask that people show their fullest respect to this child by attending the funeral devoid of all divisions.
උපරිම ගෞරවය දක්වන්නට කිසිම වේදිකකින් තොරව අවමංගල උත්සවයට සහභාගී වෙන්නට කියලා.
Many international organizations have been quick to issue statements on the incidents that unfolded in Valivieria on Thursday. The death toll from the incident now stands at 3. The Paris-based media rights watchdog Reporters Without Borders also condemned the incidents that unfolded in Valivieria on Thursday.
Issuing a communique, RSF notes that it condemns the assault of journalists who were reporting on an environmental protest in Valivieria. The organization adds that although several journalists had lodged complaints with the police regarding the attacks, the police have not taken any action on these complaints.
On a related note, Amnesty International, on a release published on its website, states that independent investigation should be carried out into the recent demonstration in Valivieria. The release published on the Amnesty International website reads, the Sri Lankan authorities must not allow the army to investigate itself over allegations of excessive use of force by its members after a number of protesters demonstrating over access to drinking water were killed over the weekend.
The Asia Deputy Director of Amnesty International is quoted saying in the release that the Sri Lankan army should have never been policing unarmed demonstrators in the first place, and having them investigate their own alleged abuses is simply ridiculous. The release also adds that Sri Lankan authorities must urgently initiate an effective investigation into this tragic accident, and investigations must be independent, impartial and conducted with the professionalism, resources and powers necessary to unearth the truth about the incident. The release published on the website of Amnesty International says that Sri Lanka is legally bound by international human rights treaties to respect and protect the right to life and provide effective remedies when this right is violated.
The Centre for Policy Alternatives, or the CPA, which is a civil society organization, also issued a statement today.
The Centre for Policy Alternatives notes that incidents of killing unarmed citizens are tragic and shameful reminders of the collapse of rule of law in the country, and most importantly, of the mindset of the government in respect of the exercise of democratic rights by its citizens.
The Centre for Policy Alternatives notes that the incident in Valivieria was not the first instance in post-war Sri Lanka of unarmed citizens exercising their democratic right to protest, being tear-gassed, fired upon and killed. The communique reads that serious and fundamental questions come to the fore with regard to the rule of law and the maintenance of law and order by the government in the context of the complete disregard of the constitutional and legal framework governing the circumstances in which the armed forces may be legitimately called out in aid of the civil power. The CPA questions whether it is now a standing operating procedure for the police to abdicate its responsibilities for law and order on account of incapacity or otherwise and call in special forces and the army. Furthermore, the communique reads, quote, adding insult to injury, government spokespersons are also quoted as alleging foreign involvement in this event, political party sponsorship of the violence, and ascribing responsibility to the media for the events. End quote. The CPA adds that nothing short of a credible, independent and impartial investigation, the findings of which should be made public, can allay the concerns of the citizens of Sri Lanka as to the alarming extent of the collapse of the rule of law and of law and order in the country.
In Colombo today, views were expressed regarding the incidents that unfolded in Ratapaswala Valivieria recently.
Now, separate media briefings were held today where politicians and public representatives commented on the issue that on the unrest that broke out in Valivieria. JVP Politburo member, parliamentarian Sunil Handunneti and the secretary of the National Sangha Federation had this to say.
ආණ්ඩුවේ හමුදා විසින් හමුදා යොදවලා සිද්ධ කරපු මේ ප්‍රහාරය
We see the attack carried out by the army deployed by the government, especially on people who were asking for water to drink, as an animalistic response by the government. While the whole country saw that the government is the accountable party here, they are trying to blame it on another faction. They are also trying to blame it on us. When the water sources of those people were being poisoned, what choices did they have but to take to the streets? Who was it that gave the order to shoot at those people like mindless animals? Was it us in the Janatha Vimukti Peramuna that ordered the army of the government to do so?
පහර දෙන්න තිරිසන් ලෙස පහර දෙන්න වෙඩි තියන්න අණ දුන්නේ කවුද? ඒ ආණ්ඩුවේ හමුදාවට අණ දුන්නේ ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණ අපිද? මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ මේ විදියට දුරදිග යන්න මිනිස් ජීවිත.
The primary cause in the aggravation of this situation to the level where human lives were destroyed was the inaction of the political authority. It is the police that are tasked with public security, and it is the police that should have intervened in this instance. For whose want did the army go there? On whose orders did the army intervene in this and start shooting?
මැදිහත් වෙන්න ඕන මේ ප්‍රසිද්ධියට හමුදාව ආවේ කාගේ බලපෑමක් නිසාද? හමුදාව ඇහිල්ලා මේ සිද්ධියට මැදිහත් වෙලා වෙඩි තිබ්බේ කාගේ අනකිරීමක් නිසාද?
Incidentally, Minister Basil Rajapaksa, that's the Minister of Economic Development, presided at a meeting held at the ministry today regarding the water crisis in Ratapaswala.
Minister Basil Rajapaksa said that an environment committee will be set up at all divisional secretariats in the Gampaha district.
Now, this committee will include industrialists, state officials and area residents, and the committee will operate to ensure that the industries in the area are environmentally friendly.
A graduate will also be appointed to this committee in a question. Now, this is second meeting chaired by Minister of Economic Development Basil Rajapaksa during the course of the week regarding incidents that have unfolded in Ratapaswala. Now, Newsfirst, of course, will keep a constant watch on the developments that will unfold on this story and will report to you as and when developments do unfold. Welcome back to the news. You're with Newsfirst, your number one news provider. President Mahinda Rajapaksa has requested the Chinese company in charge of constructing the Northern Expressway to expedite work on the road. The presidential media unit said that the president had made this request when he met with representatives of the company, including the company president, at Temple Trees yesterday.
Speaking about the development in the north, the president had reiterated the importance of an expressway that would make travel between the north and south less time-consuming and more convenient. The representatives of the Chinese company, which is also a stakeholder in the Colombo port expansion project, had arrived in the island to participate at the opening ceremony of the new southern terminal of the port. China's ambassador to Sri Lanka, Wu Jianghao, were also present at the occasion yesterday. Meanwhile, this morning, the president inquired into the well-being of Venerable Haris Patwe Aryavansa Lankara Thera, who had been taken ill. The presidential media unit said the president visited the Thera at the International Buddhist Center this morning and had wished him good health.
Representatives of several political parties met with Elections Commissioner Mahinda Deshapriya today ahead of the upcoming provincial council polls.
Speaking to journalists following the meeting, the political party representatives said their attention was focused on how activities should be carried out during elections. Establishing officers of candidates was also discussed at the meeting. Numbers for the contesting candidates were issued today. The use of state property, maintaining candidate officers and holding meetings were widely discussed today.
Just a reminder to our viewers, Mahina, on the 21st of September, elections will be held for the Central, Northwestern and the Northern Provincial Councils.
That's right, Shami. Now, speaking at a media briefing convened in Jaffna today, Senior Minister and General Secretary of the Lanka Samasamaja Party, that's Professor Tissa Vitharana, commented on fighting from within the government.
Let's take a quick look at the views expressed by Senior Minister Professor Tissa Vitharana.
Being outside the government, you can't get anything done. You see, the opposition, you can make noises, you can criticize and say things, but to do something, it has to be done by the government. And that is how we are, from within the government, carrying out the fight. Like now for this Northern Provincial Council election to be held, we had to carry out a tremendous fight from within the government. So we are hoping to continue in that way with your support.